Hello! Today I'm going to be talking about the Camp America Recruitment Fair. I went in January of 2016 and I went to the Manchester Recruitment Fair. I was actually placed when I was there, but the whole story is a journey. So I'm going to tell you what to expect if you're going and what to prepare for. So Camp America recommends that you arrive around 1 to 2 hours before the doors even open, so you can get a good place in the queue, so that once the doors open you're first in and you can get placed with the best camps. This was a problem for me because I was travelling from Sunderland to Manchester for this and the doors opened at 12. I couldn't get there by 10 o'clock unless I paid £70 for a train, which I wasn't going to do. So I ended up getting on a coach about 10 to 7 in the morning and I arrived in Manchester at around 11:30 I think. And then at Camp America they put on a coach for you to get from the train station in Manchester to the place where the fair is being held at. Now, because I got the bus, I had to walk from the bus station to the train station. I found it quite easy with Google Maps, but then I could not find where the bus stop was. Turns out, if you're doing it, it's round the back of the train station, okay? Not round the front, it's hard to find. Round the back. And there's not like a signpost or anything, there's just normally a Camp America representative stood there, and in my case, there was a queue. So there was about 40 people in this queue. So I went and I joined the queue and the lady came over to me and she was like, "You're going to the recruitment fair?" And I said yes, and she was like, "Okay, you're in the right place," which was obviously reassuring. And then we waited for about 20 minutes. By this point the doors to the fair were opening in 10 minutes time. And then a big coach came around the corner. Everyone kind of started shuffling a little bit because we all knew that not everyone was going to get on this coach and some people would have to wait for the next one, which would be about another half an hour, which would mean that you would get to the fair an hour after it starts. Thankfully, I was one of the last people to get on the bus, in the queue. So I managed to get a place. I sat next to this girl and she didn't really talk to me too much, so it was a bit awkward. But 15 minutes later, I arrived at the Old Trafford Stadium, which is where the fair was being held at. I had done my research, so I knew exactly what camps were there, which ones I wanted to go to, and whereabouts in the hall they were going to be sat. So I was in the queue waiting to get in. If you've had your interview, then for me we got blue stickers, and if you hadn't had your interview you got yellow. If you hadn't, if you had a yellow sticker, you had to go and watch an induction video before you were allowed in the hall, which obviously delays the process of getting in to talk to the camps a lot more. But if you've already had your interview, you started a separate queue and you just go in as they're letting people in. So I only stood in the queue for about 10 minutes because I'd already had my interview, and then I went into the hall. And until I got into the hall, I thought everyone was lying when they said how manic and crazy these fairs are. But literally, I walked in the door and there's just people everywhere. This whole room is ram-packed. But I knew, go that way. That's where the camp's at that you want to talk to. So I went there, I was expecting a massive queue, a massive wait. There was only one person who was already talking to the camp director of this camp. So I stood there in the queue and then I went and talked to this director. And they said to me, they introduced themselves, I introduced myself. They were both British, which I found kind of weird. But then they were like, "What role do you want at camp? What are you applying for?" And I said photography, which is obviously what I wanted to do. And then they were asking me questions like, what would your dream role at camp be? What do you want to do as a photographer? And I said I still want to have that living in with the children. I wanted to be a part of the camp. I wanted to join in with the activities. I wanted to do all of that. But I also wanted to teach photography to people who were interested, children that wanted to learn about creative arts. And then they said to me, they looked at my portfolio and they said they were very impressed and interested and I sounded like a good person for their camp. However, the role that they were applying for photography was somebody who would be a camp photographer. So I wouldn't have, if I'd gone to that camp, I wouldn't live with the kids. I wouldn't have any interaction with the kids other than photographing them. I would have been in a separate staff bunk. And it just wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to teach. I wanted to interact with the children. I love working with children. So I kind of politely said, "Okay, yeah, that's not what I'm looking for." And they were like, "Okay, we understand." So I moved on. And then I was lost because that's the camp that I was so sure I was going to go to. I was so sure I would like it and they would like me and that would be that. So I started walking around. I stood in the queue for another camp that seemed kind of quiet that was hiring for photography. And a lady came over to speak to me whilst I was in the queue. And she basically said that they were applying for a very similar role, they wanted a camp photographer. I saw a few more, I stood in the queue and looked at a few more, but I just wasn't feeling it until I got to a camp called Camp Moden. There was no queue apart from the director was already speaking to someone. So I went and hovered and this guy came over to speak to me from the camp and he looked at my portfolio. He said it was good, but he said the camp director is very picky with his photography, and because you don't have any experience in sports photography, you may not get the job. But I said it's okay, I'll talk to him anyway because the fair was starting to die down. which is terrifying because you want to be placed. So I went over and I spoke to this guy, I showed him my work, and then he was asking me all questions about like the pictures, like have you edited them, like how are they printed, what did you do with this and that. So I was talking through all, I was telling him all about like my qualifications I have in photography and my experience working with children, especially working with children in photography, which is something that I've done a lot of. So he said, okay, so usually I would let somebody go around and talk to the other camps before I hired them, just to make sure that it was what they really wanted. However, I really want you to work for me, so I'm going to hire you right now, is that okay? And I was like, yes, that's okay. And he said, it's annoying when people come to me to like apply for photography and they don't bring a portfolio. And he said that mine was one of the best ones he'd seen at one of the fairs in about 20 years, which was absolutely incredible. It was just like being told that something you're so passionate about is good is the best feeling in the world. So I signed the papers, I went, I got my photo taken, I got it all processed, and I was ecstatic. I was so happy. But then I realised that the transport that Camp America were putting on had finished. Like, it finishes at 2, which is a bit stupid because it's on 10 till 2, the fair opens at 12. So you have to literally be there at 12 and be hired by 2 to get the transport back. So basically, I was hired. It was stressful. There was this American lady who kept standing on the table in front of the camp and shouting like, if you don't have 2 years childcare experience, then leave. Do not stand in our queue. Go, we don't want to talk to you. And I was like, this is intense. But the camp that I ended up going to was incredible. It was the best summer of my life. I could not have picked a better camp. Like, honestly, the job I had there was perfect. I was still living with the children. I had a bunk. I had everything I needed. My light just cut out, but ignore that. I had everything I could have wanted from a summer camp. I was involved in activities. I went sailing. I went hiking. I did everything I could want to do. And I was doing photography. I was teaching and I was taking photographs. And it was an incredible summer. And I already signed up to go back for my second. So I hope this video was informative for you, and I hope that if you're going to the recruitment fair, you have everything you need, you're completely prepared, and good luck. Also, if you want to read more about my experience at the recruitment fair and see a list of the things that I took or that I'd recommend you could take, and hear more in detail about my conversations with the camps, then you can check that out on my blog and my new blog post. I will link that in the description below. So good luck to you if you're going to the fairs, and enjoy your summer!